Our third speaker this afternoon comes from MITACS, and it's with great pleasure that I welcome Gail Bowkett, who's the Director of Innovation Policy at MITACS. Gail has over 20 years' experience in the fields of higher education and international development and provides leadership on policy research and analysis in support of MITACS priorities and programming. Gail's experience covers a range of policy issues from international higher education to research and innovation policy. She holds a Master of International Business Administration degree from the Schulich School of Business at York University and an Honours Bachelor's degree in Russian Language and Literature from Carleton University. And I'm sorry to say, I don't know we'll have time to get to the intersection of those two, because that's really a very interesting combination on its own. So it's with great pleasure to welcome Gail to the meeting. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Gail, please take it away.
Okay, thank you very much. And yes, I definitely have had a non-linear career path, so we can talk about that some other time. I'm just going to get my screen share up here. Hopefully, Derek, can you give me a nod if you can see that? Perfect. Okay, thank you very much. So first of all, thank you to the organizers today for including MITACS in this discussion and to inviting me to speak. And thank you to my co-presenters and to Pam in particular, who talked a little bit about the collaboration between MITACS and NSERC just at the end, which is a perfect segue. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about MITACS today, give you a kind of a high-level overview of who we are, what we do, and a little bit of how we do it. Obviously we'll take questions at the end. So hopefully many of you or most of you have heard of MITACS, are aware of MITACS and our programming. But just a little bit of background on who we are. So we are a bit of an interesting animal in that we are a national independent not-for-profit organization. And we are very focused on driving innovation. And as Derek mentioned earlier, the primary way we do that is through the development of HQP. So our goal is really to develop the next generation of innovators for Canada, particularly for our knowledge and innovation-based economy. And we do that by bringing together industry and post-secondary institutions to develop collaborative R&D, primarily R&D projects, which are focused on solving both business challenges and societal challenges. So we have been around actually for more than 20 years. We started off very, very small in British Columbia, and we have grown to have a national presence across the country. You can see here over the last 10 years that we have invested over $850 million into collaborative research projects across the country. We have been on a bit of a growth trajectory in the past couple of years. And for anyone who's had an eye on federal budget announcements, you will have seen that we also received a significant mandate in the most recent federal budget. And so we are continuing on that growth path, and we know there is lots of demand out there in the community, and we're doing everything we can to meet that demand. So for MITACS, we are kind of an interesting organization in that we do sit outside of government. We, of course, are funded primarily by the federal government as well as every provincial government across the country. But what's really key to MITACS, and it's sort of at the it's part of our DNA and who we are as an organization, and that is partnership and networking. So we partner, of course, with our funding agencies, federal governments, provincial governments. We also partner with, of course, post-secondary institutions, companies, research networks, not-for-profit organizations, as well as a significant international network where we maintain relationships with sort of key partners in a number of priority countries. We have relationships with over 117 post-secondary institutions in Canada, so that includes universities as well as colleges. In the early years, we were very focused on universities, but over the last 2 or 3 years, we've actually broadened out to include colleges and polytechnics across the country. And we have funded well over 14,000 research projects. We do have agreements with a number of organizations in sort of the broader Canadian innovation ecosystem. As I said, sort of that partnership component. It's part of our DNA as an organization. It's also what we do and what we support. But we do have memoranda of agreements with a number of different players, including the research councils. And thanks to Pam for describing some of the work that we've been doing on the Alliance platform. We actually have what we call a co-funded resource with NSERC, between NSERC and MITACS. So that means there's an employee that we share who kind of lives with one foot in MITACS and one foot inside of NSERC. In an effort to maximize collaboration between our two organizations and between our programs. Hopefully that will also make things much smoother and easier to access our resources for the community. We're also actually about to have a co-funded position with CFI, which is going to be starting in a couple of weeks from now. And the role of that co-funded person will be really to do the same thing, have a foot in CFI, a foot in MITACS, really look for ways that we can collaborate together, build collaborations together, and how we can leverage what we're both offering to the community. So that's something to keep an eye on. That's coming up very, very soon. A key part of our model is what we call our boots on the ground staff, and that is what we call our business development team. So these are folks that are based across the country. We have a presence, we have a BD presence in every province across the country. The vast majority of which are have a university as their home base and often have a physical office within a university. So whatever institution you are at, you should be very easily be able to find your local business development officer. The vast majority of them also have advanced degrees. They are PhD holders by and large and have a lot of experience in sort of navigating post-secondary institutions and have a solid understanding of what academic research is all about. So some of I won't go through all of this in detail, but just some of the benefits of working with MITACS. A couple of these I'll focus on, and that is additional exposure and knowledge, particularly to enhance your students' educational experience. So the research collaborations that we support are between academia and the private sector, and of course the not-for-profit sector as well. And then we support interns and fellows to work on those collaborative projects under the supervision of both the host company and the academic supervisor. So it's a great opportunity to sort of enrich the experience of your trainees. The collaborations also are a great way for academic institutions to develop their relationships with partner organizations outside of academia. And it allows or provides access to some of the intel and data sets and so on that are held within the private sector and within partner organizations. Intellectual property is a big issue, of course, when we're talking about collaboration between academia and industry. MITACS has no stake in it, no role in the IP, but we do bring that up as part of the discussions to make sure that is something that the two partners talk about at the beginning of a project rather than halfway through or at the end of a project. There is a very, very high success rate for applications to MITACS, and that is largely due to the fact that our projects are developed through that business development staff. So that business development specialist or director is available to the partners to help them throughout the process. And so by the time an application is submitted, it's a pretty robust application. And our success rates are somewhere in the 90+% range. We are non-discipline specific. We started out as a sort of a science we started out as a math-based organization. But we have been open to all disciplines for a number of years now. So the objectives of our programming, obviously to promote high quality research. All of our applications go through a peer review process. We support all disciplines, as I just said. We support flexible and collaborative research initiatives. I'll get to a little bit more about that in a second. We're increasing professional opportunities for students and for researchers. We stimulate international research collaborations and also facilitate the attraction of new funding. So just a quick overview of our three primary programs: Accelerate, Elevate, and Global Link. Accelerate is really sort of the flagship program that probably most of you are familiar with. Elevate and Global Link have different elements to them. Global Link obviously has an international component, but they are all still built around that fundamental principle of research collaboration and supporting the development of HQP working on those projects. So if we look at Accelerate, that's applied research collaborations between researchers in academia and private sector or not-for-profit organizations. That's open to academic institutions right across the country. The way the program works is we structure the internships on modules of 4 to 6 months. Typically 4 months is what we would consider sort of an internship unit. And like I said, they're open to all academic disciplines. Similar to what Pam was saying for the Alliance program, the applications for MITACS Accelerate are open all of the time. So as the applications come in, they go through our peer review process and then are approved, or sometimes that peer review will come back with a request for additional information or clarification. Where to start on this slide? I think I've said a number of this already. One thing I haven't touched on is sort of the scale of projects. And Accelerate is open to, it can be very small projects with, one company partner, one intern. It can be large scale projects with multiple partners on both the academic side, the private sector side, involving a number of different interns and covering a number of disciplines. Our application process is relatively simple. And like I said, the business development team is there to really facilitate that process. And we commit to making those funding decisions within a period of 6 to 8 weeks. That's with peer review. That last box there on the slide, both domestic and foreign students are eligible. So if there are international students who are registered at your institution as part of their study program, they are eligible to participate in MITACS programs. So just to illustrate kind of that modular piece a little bit, like I said, we have the 4-month internship module for a project. And you can, if you think of them almost like Lego blocks, you can kind of extend them or stack them to suit the project needs, essentially. So you can have more than one intern working, concurrently, or you can have one working after another. There are different ways to kind of build it to basically fit the needs of the project. And obviously there are supervisory requirements on both the private sector side and the academic side. And then because we are now open to students from the college level right up through postdocs, there are certain different maximum lengths of time that those groups can participate in MITACS projects. So the Elevate program, very quickly, this is, again, it's very similar. It's research collaboration. It's between academia and private sector and not-for-profit. But these are 1 to 2 year placements, and these placements are more focused at sort of the research management level, and they are for postdocs. This program is also slightly different from Accelerate in that as the Elevate fellows go through their placement, they are also provided with a core professional development curriculum, training curriculum. And this one is a competitive process where Accelerate is not. This one is competitive. So there's some details on kind of the financial element of the program. So the salary or the stipend for the postdoctoral fellow is $55,000 per year for up to 2 years, with you can see there the value of the training program, and there's a $5,000 allotment for other expenses. And finally, quickly, Global Link. This is a bit of a suite of programs that we have, and they've all got acronyms in alphabet soup, which I won't go into. But essentially, what's important to remember is this is sort of the international component of what MITACS does. So we actually have the ability to bring international students into Canada, specifically around research projects. We also have the ability to facilitate Canadian students going abroad to work with research partners. We do maintain a number of agreements with partner countries to leverage funding that our partner countries will also put into the programs. So there's lots of really interesting stuff going on with our Global Link program. Within Global Link, GRI, there's the alphabet soup I was talking about. It might be the best known one, and that's the program that runs every summer where we bring international students into Canada to work inside Canadian academic institutions on research projects under the supervision of their host institution researchers. This is a very, very in-demand program. It is competitive. And we are now at the point where we are receiving over 12,000 applications every year for placements in Canada over the summer. So as a talent attraction tool, this one is definitely hitting the mark. And I lied. There's one more program that I thought I would mention, and that's MITACS Entrepreneur International. And this is a relatively new program, relatively small program, but it is funded by ISED, by the federal government. And that is to, it's kind of more sort of on the commercialization end of innovation support, but it's really to help companies that are based in accelerators and incubators that are associated with universities. And helping them partner with an incubator in a partner country and give them kind of a soft landing for them to explore business partnerships, source materials, find suppliers, find clients, that sort of thing. So that's the end of my presentation. That's kind of an overview of MITACS and who we are and a number of our different programs. And of course, the last thing I'll say is that we're also very open and very innovative as an organization ourselves. So we are, constantly kind of thinking of and trying out new opportunities to meet needs that we see in the market, both from our academic partners as well as our private sector partners. And I will leave it there. Thank you very much.